Hyrule Warriors came out fairly recently, and boy is it cathartic to play as Ganondorf, tower over everyone, and pummel the ever-loving tar out of the usual heroes. Why do they get to win all the time? Ganondorf has lived a really long time, man. He's worked really hard, and he deserves to beat the crap out of them crazy kids on his lawn. It's a fun game, and it's empowering to sleep away enemies like it's a pile of mulch. It makes me feel good about myself, and all the colors and lights and sound. It's a good time. It's very pleasing, especially with characters you never expected to do that. Though Agatha, I'm still in disbelief about. But hey, beating up people as Impa and or Ruto? Choice. This is kind of my review of the game. It's fun to play. The people seem to agree. The people also agree that it kind of does the same thing over and over again and only gets away with it because it's fun to do. There are really only a few different objectives on the same 10 or so maps. Story mode doesn't really overstay its welcome and overuse the same assets, which is good, and the story's actually pretty decent. I don't mind the original characters, even though I'd like them more if they became a likable faction of their own with their own group dynamic. Also, it was a bit of a missed opportunity not to have some team-ups with the heroes. Either have Ganondorf team up with Hyrulean forces to take down an even bigger threat a la Smash Bros, or have the forces he betrayed join forces with you to take down Ganon. Either would have been a fun little non-canon thing. But here's the thing. Hyrule Warriors needlessly relies on scenarios. In story mode, it's the story elements. Go here, do this, or else. In adventure mode, it's largely a bunch of asinine challenges in which the game tries to corner and overwhelm you. There's really not just a free-for-all mode. You're tied to either the story scenarios or challenge-type tasks. I noticed during gameplay once that the enemies have a lot of ways they can win. The Goron Mountains in the Death Mountain stage, for example, can destroy your base with boulders or bomb chews in addition to the usual overrunning your forces and killing you. Meanwhile, you have to do everything the game tells you. The allied base is under attack? Best get on that shit or lose. Zelda's gonna die? Best run halfway across the battlefield and save her. And all the while, you've got enemy captains taking keeps and retaking keeps you've already taken, and bosses showing up, and all of this other shit that's going on and distracting you from what you really like doing. Slashing the shit out of enemies. There's not really a break there. Your allies won't be doing much either most of the time. Most notably, they will die while you're doing other things. That's no fun. Helpful allies are where it's at. There's an in-game example of this, actually. The raid captains in adventure mode. They're my favorite because they function a lot like you do. They go in and take things and generally get stuff done. Meanwhile, in your mad dashes across the battlefield, there are hundreds of allied soldiers that literally just stand around doing nothing. The raid captains aren't like that. They do a bunch of stuff and you can't help but cheer when you see them on the battlefield doing what they do. You actually like them. You feel bad when they die. It's a very simple appeal to emotions that the rest of your allies, including the characters that are sometimes under your direct control and have characters that you appreciate elsewhere, don't take advantage of. And that leads to another of my bigger problem with Hyrule Warriors. Underneath it all, there's a very fun battle system, one that could be easily balanced without having strict objectives and rubber band AI on characters good or bad. In fact, Hyrule Warriors reminds me of a game I enjoyed hours and hours of in the past. I played it over and over again, and the appeal wasn't in story mode. The game kept on being appealing despite being the same over and over again on a different map. That game was Star Wars Battlefront 2. I love that game. There's something about it that manages to be incredibly fun, even though it's just as repetitive as Hyrule Warriors. I don't often change up my strategy from one map to the next. I pick the nearest command post and march. That's about it, but because the game is well designed in terms of the mechanics of play. Sure, the burden is still largely on your shoulders, and the AI is largely incompetent on your side, but the game also isn't telling me a million different things I have to do. I can choose how to win. I can go around capturing command posts, or I can focus on whittling down the opponent's garrison through my own skills and use of heroes. It's not perfect either, but it feels more leveled out and fair. Hyrule Warriors has a lot of things in place for a robust, free experience like this, most notably the idea of capturing keeps. It doesn't have the option of defeating all the enemies since the point is there's kind of a never-ending stream of them. What it has is instead a better implementation of the hero system in the form of main characters that are harder to defeat than your average soldiers and even captains. The mechanic that would lend itself well to a free playing experience since it's an option you can choose to take. Adventure mode does have its more strategic moments in which you can decide to fight a general, or capture keep, or go after fairies or treasure, but it never brings everything into a full balanced form of gameplay. So imagine this. Essentially a multiplayer mode, but one that can also be played with AI allies and opponents. Each side gets 3 or 4 generals which are playable characters. Defeating all of them means victory. Capturing or destroying their keeps also means victory. The battles play out largely like normal, but you're given more control over your allied army. Using the control pad or gamepad touchscreens, you're able to give a number of commands. You can tell your troops to focus on defending your keeps, attack enemy keeps, or attack enemy generals, amongst other things. Good performance and good direction in battle will reward you with points that allow you to summon special units to the field, including healers, summoners, new factions, mini-bosses, and bosses. The gamepad option would work especially well here, as it could show a map which you could then use to give your factions even more direct orders about where to go. So really you could have them set up a defense at a key point that isn't a keep either, like a bridge or a crossroads. In multiplayer mode, each player would have more of a limit on what they can control so that there's strategy, but not outright chaos. You could pretty easily collaborate with teammates to form one big strategy or balance your forces across offense and defense. In single player, commanding your forces effectively adds a deep element of strategy to the game and actually gives the gameplay some variety. Choosing your maps, characters, and factions would enable you to create narratives of your own, especially when DLC comes later to add to the experience. I think it will be a mode that really gives the game a random element and real replayability in addition to the challenge modes. It would be something that largely brings all of the other gameplay elements together and focuses on the simple gameplay elements that make the game fun and not bombarding you with other more complex ones. So that's just an idea that hit me and constantly is in the back of my mind when I play Hyrule Warriors. I mean, I have other gripes with the games and whatnot, but they're more nitpicky things like the music or missing characters or like, why the heck is Agatha here? Ashay would have fit in a lot better, or Queen Midna. And where's Groose? As a non-canon celebration of the Zelda franchise, the game falls a bit short in my opinion. Why not bring up Demise, seeing as he's the bigger bad of this entire series? Why not translate characters from Wind Waker or Link to the Past into more modern styles? I feel like I could go for a modern-day Aghanim. Heck, for that reason, where's Hilda and Ravio? How awesome would they have been? Of course, those are complaints anyone could levy about the game since it's the Zelda franchise and it's pretty old and it has a lot in it. I do feel as though there are a lot of other nods that could have been made to other games and characters in the series, but again, how relevant are such complaints, especially to the current argument? The only thing I can really hope for is a sequel, and based on how fun Hyrule Warriors has been, I'd have no qualms on buying it. Though, it would be nice to see some other varied gameplay modes besides nitpicky and story time. Yeah. Hyrule Warriors, it's fun!